Hi there, and welcome to another video in which we talk about the ins and outs of narcissistic personality disorder. But before we start, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Dr. Supriya McKenna, and I'm the co-author of Divorcing a Narcissist, The Lure, the Loss and the Law, and also of Narcissism and Family Law, a practitioner's guide, which is a specialist book for those in the legal profession. And my co-writer, Karen Walker, is one of the UK's leading divorce lawyers. And the important thing about these books is that they work together to educate both you and your divorce lawyer about the behaviours you can expect when divorcing a narcissist and how to protect yourself from those behaviours so that you can both be one step ahead of your narcissistic spouse. So let's get started. Today's topic is all about why couples therapy doesn't work if you're in a relationship with a narcissist, and how it may actually make things worse for you. As we all know, many couples during the breakdown of a marriage will try marriage guidance counselling or couples therapy as an attempt to find strategies to either try to save the marriage or to break up in an amicable way. And for the majority, this can be a really sensible thing to try. Unfortunately, couples therapy is bound to fail when one of the couple has narcissistic personality disorder. Why? Well, number one is that narcissists aren't able to have mutually loving, empathic relationships as a result of their arrested emotional development. The second reason is that narcissists aren't able to take responsibility for their actions or feelings. Number three is that narcissists aren't motivated to make long-term changes to their behaviour. The fourth is because narcissists use couples therapy as just another place to get narcissistic supply. And reason number five is because the therapist is likely to be fooled by the narcissist's charm and likability, making matters even worse for you. So let's look at these 5 reasons why couples therapy won't work with a narcissist in a bit more detail. The first problem lies with the narcissist's ability to have a mutually loving, empathic, authentic relationship. They just can't do it. Their brains are not wired to be able to do it as a result of the way that they adapted to their early childhoods, and no amount of couples therapy is likely to change that. You need to be able to have empathy for the other in a relationship for it to work. You need to be able to care about another person, really care. You need to be willing to meet their needs. You need to be able to truly experience love. Now, of course, narcissists can feign all of these things, but you probably already realise if you've got to the stage of considering couples therapy, these are not actually abilities they really have because their emotional development was arrested before they learnt them. This is not fixable, well, certainly not through couples therapy. Secondly, couples therapy often talks about the concept of taking responsibility in a marriage. And the idea is that each person needs to be able to take responsibility for their own thoughts, feelings and behaviours. Now, even non-narcissists can struggle with this at the beginning of couples therapy, this idea that another person can't actually make you feel something or make you do something. And of course, it is very true in the main. But in a relationship with a narcissist, you're actually dealing with abusive behaviours, which you might not even recognise as being abusive. And here, it's actually dangerous for you to take all the responsibility for your feelings and let the narcissist off the hook for their behaviours. And let's face it, that's probably what you've been doing all along. Accepting and forgiving bad behaviour from the narcissist and taking the blame for it, making excuses for it. Does that sound familiar to you? You see, your situation is different from most people entering couples therapy. And it's really important to realise that, frankly, not all of the normal rules apply. So whilst you might be taking responsibility for bad behaviour from the narcissist and taking responsibility for how you're feeling as a result, the narcissist is going to be doing the exact opposite, because a narcissist simply cannot take their share of the responsibility when it comes to problems in the relationship. This is actually a core part of narcissistic personality disorder, this inability to accept responsibility. This is why they blame shift. Narcissists instantly shift the blame onto other people or circumstances when something goes wrong. nothing can ever be their fault, because to accept the blame would lead them to having to feel shame. And that would crush their very fragile self-image, which is what they project out to the world. A narcissist can't let this false self, this mask they wear to protect themselves from their own feelings of unworthiness, they can't let it drop. They need to keep it in place. To them, it feels like a matter of life and death to keep it in place. And that's why you've never heard your narcissistic partner say sorry and mean it, because they actually can't take responsibility or be wrong. Now, my third point regarding why couples therapy won't work is about motivation. A narcissist won't be motivated to change in order to save the marriage. You see, studies have shown that grandiose narcissists actually have higher scores for subjective well-being than non-narcissists. So what that means is they are literally happier than non-narcissists. It suits them to be a narcissist, which means they're simply not going to be motivated to make the changes required to make their relationship work. But why are they happier? Well, if you think about it, narcissists exploit others for their own gain in all sorts of ways, from the subtle to the really obvious. They might exploit them for money, or so they can have someone to do all the boring daily jobs that they don't want to do. They often exploit people for sex, for a home. They may exploit their partner by they themselves having a big, important, perhaps well-paid job, with all the external validation that comes from that. And here, what often happens is that their partner is run ragged, catering to their every whim, at the expense of their own aspirations and needs. And usually, they don't recognise this as exploitation, because they believe they should be grateful to have such an important spouse. Now, the list of exploitative behaviours is literally endless, and it very much depends on what your particular narcissist gains the most narcissistic supply from. And if you haven't watched my video on what drives a narcissist and the concept of narcissistic supply, then please do have a look at it, because it's a really important concept to understand. It lies at the heart of narcissistic behaviour. Now, the narcissist can exploit others in this way because, as we've mentioned before, they have no real empathy. Although they can feign being caring when it suits them, the reality is that they can't feel their partner's dissatisfaction or pain, and actually they don't care about it, because the main thing for them is that their needs are getting met. So you can see why, if they're getting everything they need from those around them, admiration, adoration, attention, food, laundry, etc., etc., you can see why they would be happy. Narcissists are intrinsically selfish. They only give on their terms if in some way they benefit from it. And so meeting your needs is unlikely to be an attractive option. So again, not brilliant when it comes to couples therapy. Now, this isn't to say that a narcissist isn't going to want to have marriage guidance counselling or couples therapy. They very often do, but not for the same reasons as you. For the narcissist, it's not about saving the marriage or trying to change. You see, for a narcissist, marriage therapy is actually a wonderful place to gain narcissistic supply, and that is the main reason for them attending. It actually provides all the essential components of narcissistic supply. There's drama, conflict, attention, the opportunity for clever manipulation. Narcissists love this game, and it is just a game to them. It's a chance to pit you and your therapist against one another. It's a chance to talk about themselves to an interested third party. It's a chance to prove how reasonable they are, how kind they are, what wonderful partners they are to a completely new audience member. Narcissists relish playing the victim, as you probably already know, and they'll happily tell tales of how you're so unforgiving or how difficult you are. But here's the thing. The therapist is likely to believe them, and that's number 5 on our list of reasons why couples therapy doesn't work with narcissists. Now, let's not badmouth the therapist here. We've got to understand that narcissists, practically by definition, come across as charming and plausible people, as nice people, or they do at first, at any rate. I mean, of course they do. That's how they gain the admiration of their victims in the first place. That's how they gain your admiration, right? Bear in mind also that they're particularly effective at impressing people who are highly empathic, those that care about others. And of course, most couples therapists are going to fall into this category. And the other thing is that certainly here in the UK, psychologists and even medical professionals don't get formal training in NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder. So it's no wonder the therapist is ripe for manipulation by the narcissist. So what generally happens is that the narcissist initially puts the therapist on a pedestal and appears to be in awe of their brilliance or their education or their office decor or the location of their office or whatever. Now the therapist is likely to be flattered by this. They're only human after all. They'll have no idea of the true dynamics at play because they're taking things at face value, as you did once upon a time. But what the narcissist does next is really clever because they actually turn the therapist into tools of their own abuse, of the narcissist's abuse. So the narcissist will push your buttons in therapy. They'll make hurt accusations and point out your flaws. They'll play the victim and they'll rewrite history. And now you, quite naturally, will find yourself getting upset and angry. And as you try to justify yourself, you may notice that you're being judged by the therapist, who of course believes the narcissist. They don't realise that they're punishing and invalidating you on the narcissist's behalf. To them, you look like the unreasonable one. You become the perpetrator, the narcissist becomes the victim, and they become the narcissist's rescuer. And this is the so-called drama triangle. It's well worth looking up to explain narcissistic behaviours. So let's face it, unless you happen to chance upon a therapist who fully understands NPD, this won't be a helpful experience for you. You see, narcissists don't try to learn or evolve from the process of marriage therapy or counselling. They try to win at it. Of course, this can't go on forever, and eventually the therapists themselves will be devalued and thrown under the bus by the narcissist, because that's what narcissists always do. It's part of the idealised, devalued, discard cycle that they always engage in. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't give couples therapy a try if you feel you ought to, as long as you understand that you may come out doubting yourself and your truth even more than before you went in. But equally, knowing what you now know, marriage guidance counselling or therapy may give you a chance to sit back and watch the dynamics of narcissism at play if you can keep your cool enough. And if you're lucky, this might even help to solidify what you already know about your partner's narcissism. And it might actually fortify your resolve to walk away from the relationship. But one thing is for sure. If your partner has narcissistic personality disorder, marriage guidance counselling or couples therapy won't save your marriage. Because the only way to save your marriage, if you've got to this stage with a narcissist, is to accept the serious limitations of your relationship. Accept that you will not be loved by the narcissist, and accept that they will never really have your best interests at heart because they simply can't care about you. You'll have to accept that this is a marriage of convenience for them and maybe also for you. It's about what you're prepared to sacrifice in order to remain married, not just for you, but also for your children. And if authenticity and reciprocated love matter to you, you may have no other choice than to leave. I hope I've given you some food for thought in this video. There'll be more videos coming soon, but until then, bye-bye.